Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Training Unleashed. On behalf of the Learning Network, I want to thank everyone for taking your time to either listen or watch. I want to thank my sponsors, C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio, for sponsoring me, and also remind everyone we now have a YouTube channel, Training Unleashed Network. Go check it out. Today, I have a great guest. I think this is going to be a really fun interview. Her name is Kristel Bauer, and she's the author of a brand new book called Work-Life Tango. Now, I love the name. So, what inspired tango? And what does tango mean in terms of work life?
Good question. Well, thanks for having me. I think a lot of us struggle with jumping from work mode to personal mode, and we're pulled in a million different directions. A lot of people are overwhelmed, and a lot of people are trying to figure out how to show up the way that they really want to show up in their life, in their careers, in their personal lives. And I see it kind of as a dance. It's a dance of work and life. We're all trying to figure this out. So how can we make it fun? How can we make it exciting? How can we turn it into more of a tango? The tango, there's passion, there's excitement. It's a beautiful dance to watch. So it's really like, how can we take ownership over our time? How can we reclaim our time? And how can we show up in our work and in our lives in a way that we feel really good about?
By the way, my wife and I took tango lessons
Did you? Oh, I love it.
and tons of fun. And you really, I think it's an amazing dance. And I like your description. So let's just take this example to people working at home, because when you're working at home, you get interrupted. Someone knocks on your door,
Mhm.
neighbor, maybe there's a kid issue. How do you shift into the work tango or the work life? How do you go back and forth when you're
Yeah.
working at home?
That's a big one. In this book, I talk a lot about remote and hybrid work because I think that's a big struggle for a lot of people. I've talked with a lot of individuals who have a hard time shifting from personal to professional or vice versa. And the first thing that I want to say is it's really about being intentional with how you're showing up, being intentional with your time. I like to say living on purpose. So, what can happen? We can get put on autopilot. We can start to just be caught in our thoughts and we're not fully present, being intentional with our behaviors. I go through a lot of this in the book, talking about how can you improve your relationship with yourself, because I think it really does all start with our relationship with ourselves. And once we are clear on what's important to us, we can incorporate things like mindfulness, and I give some strategies to do that. But biggest thing, be intentional, wake up and really start being in your life. And then that helps you step into these different phases, whether it's family mode or work mode, with you're really there, you're really present, and you're not thinking about the next thing or thinking about what you just did. So easier said than done sometimes. I know that, but I think that's one tip that can help everyone.
So, Crystal, I know you're big into mindset,
Yes.
and I know that's got to play a part to this. So maybe you could connect the mindset to this whole living with purpose and things of that nature.
Yeah, of course. So I come from a healthcare background. So now, I'm in the speaking media space, but I definitely, if you would have talked to me 10 years ago, never would have thought I'd be doing what I'm doing now. Now, I absolutely love it, but there was a journey to get me here. But when I was working in healthcare, I was working one-on-one with individuals who were going through the motions a lot in different areas of their lives. And I was working in an integrative psychiatry practice. And so I'd see individuals who, on paper, like you'd be like, oh my gosh, they have what looks like the perfect life. Like they've got it all. They're making tons of money. They've got the power. They've got the title, all these things that the world tells us, like, you have these things, then you're going to be happy, right? But we know that's not how it works. We know that there's so many things behind the scenes. We know it's more about relationships and how you're showing up, how you feel about yourself. So I really started to get curious about, like, what does it really take for us to live happy, successful, fulfilling lives, right? Like, what are the core ingredients that go into this? And so I did my own research. I got my fellowship in integrative medicine. And then I got into this speaking and media space where I talk about this a lot. I speak about this and I ask a lot of people, like, what's working, what's not working. So I think when it comes down to it, it's really about living our lives in alignment with the things that are really important to us. And coming back to that mindset question, you know, A lot of it starts with you. It starts with your relationship with yourself. Like, how are you perceiving the world? How are you interpreting the world? How do you view yourself? So your mindset, like that's huge. That can change your life and others in an extremely positive way if you make it a priority to work on some of those things.
So what I'm hearing from you is that the mindset is sort of like the anchor.
Love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how does someone, because people throw around the word mindset. Maybe take a second and explain to people what mindset really is and how to create a mindset that enables the tango to happen.
Yes. Yes. So I talk a lot about a growth mindset. So what I mean by that is looking at situations that are challenging or situations where maybe you feel a little bit stuck, feel a little bit stifled, you feel a little bit uncomfortable, and you're able to see where there's room for growth. You're able to embrace the learning. You're able to embrace the journey. We're not expecting things to be perfect. That's not real life. That's not how it is at work and life. So it's not about being perfect or being happy all the time. But what it's really about is how can I view this situation in a way that's empowering for me, in a way that's going to help me move towards where I really want to go. So that's a big piece of building resilience is being able to lean into that. And I talk about our relationship with ourselves, right? Our relationship with our thoughts. And something in my keynotes that I give, I talk about the relationship between your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors, right? And this is in therapy, it's called cognitive behavioral therapy. So, one key thing to recognize is that a lot of our thoughts are just, they're simply not true. And sometimes people are like, wait, what do you mean? But now some may be, of course, like some may be facts, right? Like that's very, very much the case. But a lot of thoughts are simply opinions and one potential perspective and not facts, right? And then you have some that are just outright lies. Okay, so once you recognize that, you realize, oh my gosh, I have all these stories about myself, about my relationship in the world, what I can do, what I can't do, all this stuff. But that doesn't mean that it's true. So once you recognize that, it empowers you because then you have the awareness to make a new choice. So let's say you always respond the same way in a situation that's keeping you stuck. You have that awareness. Guess what? You can choose a new way to respond. I call that choose a new exit. Life changing in so many amazing ways for people at work, in their careers, in their relationships, lots more. And I'm happy to share stories about this because I have a lot when it comes to my own growth too.
So, personal passion of mine. I think honestly, what you just said is one of the most impactful things that people listening to this podcast can hear. I'll just share with you how I frame it. I'd say you are the author of your own life,
Yes.
and you get to interpret what's happening to you, and you get to write your own story. And you
Yes.
can write your story as a victim or as a victor. You can look at everything that went wrong in your life as a building block that made you stronger and better, or as a sad story that holds you back and anchors you down. So I think slightly differently, maybe, but the same basic concept is true. And so many people have wrong interpretations. And I like to challenge people to become very, very curious of what the
Yes.
possibilities are. And also to have compassion for others when you're in a bad situation and why are you in that bad situation? If especially, if at work or something you have a conflict with other people, to instead of coming at it as I'm right, they're wrong, come at it from where are they? What's on their plate? What's going on in their mind? They're worried about losing their job. Is someone sick at home, etc. You really don't know.
Right. That's so true. Zooming out a little bit. When you zoom out, you can get a wider perspective about things. That can be tough when there are strong emotions. So if you're in a situation where something happened and you're frustrated, or someone hurt your feelings, or you name it, if it's at work and maybe you got some negative feedback from someone, you're like, what are you talking about? Right? All these emotions that can surface. What can be really helpful is if it's safe, waiting it out a little bit, like waiting for those emotions to settle, to choose how you want to respond. So you're not just reacting, Because when you pause like that, that's reclaiming control, where I talk about this possibility to choose a new exit. Well, in order to do that, you have to have the awareness. Okay, you know what? I always respond to these types of things in a certain way. Is this really helpful for me? Like, is this moving me in the direction of that promotion that I want, or, a better relationship with whoever it is in your life? And if the answer is no, then it's okay, how can I respond in a new, more empowering way? Key thing here, this is uncomfortable, like flat out. It's not easy. So again, living that intentional life, you have to have that desire to change in a positive way, and you have to be intentional to then take these steps to do it.
Yeah. Hey, let me tell you a secret. The Learning Network has come out with a new product called Breeze. And Breeze is the easiest to use course creation tool on the marketplace today. You want to look smart, you need Breeze. You want to get engagement, you need Breeze. You want to have a tool that can make you look great and will work with your LMS, you need Breeze. One of the cool things about Breeze is it's all drag and drop, all templated, super easy to be effective, but it's also SCORM based. So it can work in any LMS. And here, get this, when you want to update it, you update it in Breeze and it will automatically update every instant in any LMS that you have the course. Go to learning.net and schedule a demo today. So I want to shift gears a little bit, because I also know part of the tango is physical fitness and health.
Yes.
So maybe talk a little bit about that importance in your work-life tango.
Oh, 100%. So what we put into our body and what we do with our body, it impacts how we feel. Now, we all know that all this stuff impacts our physical health, right? Our physicians, our healthcare teams, everybody talks about that all the time, right? If you do these certain things, it's better for your health. But a key thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about as often, the benefits of physical activity, of enough sleep, and eating well for our mental health and our emotional health, right? So when we do these things for our bodies, it helps our minds and it helps how we show up. It makes us more able to have resilience, to be able to respond how we really want to respond when those things pop up in our days. So it's investing in yourself, right? Making yourself a priority and doing that in a very compassionate way, because this can be overwhelming for people. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. I like to say start with approachable things for yourself, whether it's trying to eat more anti-inflammatory foods, whether it's getting a little bit more sleep, moving your body, pick something, and then you can build from there.
I really like what you're saying. And what I'm hearing you say is that how you feed your body, how you exercise your body, and how you think, adding back the mindset, all has impact on your behaviors and what you do. And I know from personal experience, when I eat too much, I'm lethargic.
Right.
Okay. Now, this will come out much later, but we're recording just before Thanksgiving. And, I already know I'm going to have a lethargic meal, no matter what I try. But every day I get to make a choice. Every day I build habits to really, overcome these things. So let's take everything we've described, because I see lots of connection to training. But what is the role? Maybe I'll just, because I want to say it, and I think it's important.
Sure.
We train people on all kinds of skill sets. We train people on product knowledge, customer service standards, sales tips, leadership skills. But how many companies are training people on work-life balance, either as a hybrid or a full-time remote employee? So how can people take what who are in training departments, take your book, how can they take that and apply it to the workplace?
I think that is key because all of these things are applicable for the workplace and how we're showing up. And I have a whole chapter for leaders as well. How do you relate to your remote teams, or if you're hybrid teams? The world is changing, work is changing. How can you focus on, number one, that relationship with yourself? Because the first segment of the book is it all starts with you. So it doesn't matter where you're working, as an employee, as an individual, whatever it is, working on that relationship with yourself can have a positive ripple effect on all areas of your work and your life. So that's the first segment. The second segment is really working on you and your place of work, you and your relationship with your colleagues, with your clients, how you're working, how can you work more efficiently, and how can you support your performance and your well-being. That's the key, and not one or the other. They go hand in hand. And then the third part of the book is really about your relationship with the community and the greater good, and then all of these things, these components, relationship with ourselves, with others, the world. I think those are the key things for happiness and success, and having that sense of inner balance, which that's what the book's really going after. It's more about this inner balance and making sure we're showing up intentionally in our lives. So less so much now about this external balance, works from 9 to 5, because we know that's really not the case for everybody. It's more about, okay, how can I approach my life intentionally to make it work for the things that are really important to me?
Yeah. And I think everything you just said will become more and more important in time. Because when you look at technology and the impact on technology, how we all work is going to change.
Right.
And preparing yourself and thinking about it and being deliberate is important. Kristel, we could talk forever. I know that our listeners are impressed and curious about your book. Maybe maybe they would love to know about your company. So please, share with everyone where they can get your book,
Sure.
maybe the name of the book. I've said work-life balance a bunch of times, about your company, what kinds of people and companies you like to work with.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that. So the full title of the book, Work-Life Tango, Finding Happiness, Harmony, and Peak Performance Wherever You Work. And it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. So if you just put the name Work-Life Tango on the internet, you will find it. But you can also find it on my website. So that's www.livegreatly.co. And what I do with my company, Live Greatly, I'm a speaker. So I do a lot of keynote speaking, corporate training type things where I talk to different groups and organizations to help motivate them, empower them around a lot of different topics. So I really kind of fine tune based on the organization's needs. Recently, there's been a lot around change, a lot of change happening, people coming to me looking for support, going through changes as a group organization. And one of my most popular keynotes is called Find Your Imperfect Happy. I love that one because it is applicable, I feel like for all different areas, and it can be applicable to a bunch of different situations. And this is all about recognizing work and life are not perfect, and happiness does not have to be perfect either. So I'm all about finding that imperfect happy. But yeah, I'm active on LinkedIn and Instagram. I told you my website, so I feel like I just gave
You
a
got
lot
to
of
tell the
info.
website again, because you
Okay.
told it very fast, which most guests do. Most
Got
people
it.
are listening to you. Also, I've been to your website. You have a nice website.
Well, thank you.
So what is your website?
So it is livegreatly.co. And then I also have a podcast too, and that's called Live Greatly. So Live Greatly, and that is my website. And then my show is called Live Greatly too.
Well, I bet that would be a great podcast for people to check out. The book would be great to check out. I love the fact that you're hearing that change is becoming a popular topic for speeches. So it's been terrific having you here, but of course you can't leave without sharing your one tip.
Oh, one tip. All right. Now, this is a big one. I was thinking about this, like, what do I want to say? But this is really applicable for me right now. I actually was thinking about this morning. And it is, you need to be your own biggest advocate, your own biggest advocate at work, your own biggest advocate in life. And I think that is so important. You need to get to a place where you really have your own back. You have your own back and you support yourself, and you are your best friend in this life in the best sense of the word. So I think that's super important. And for me, with this whole book launch journey, I was just looking back and reflecting, and throughout the process, I was like, I really had to be my own advocate, and it has worked out better than I had thought it could. But a lot of that was like, hearing no and then believing in yourself to keep going. And so I think wherever you're at, remember that, believe in yourself, and make sure you're advocating for yourself.
I love your tip. I'm going to build on your tip if that's okay.
Oh, sure, go for it.
which is be in responsibility, that it's your life. You get to be your advocate. You get to take your lead. You're responsible. It's not your mother. It's not your father. It's not your sister. It's not your husband. It's not your kids. It's not your wife. It's you. Great tip.
Yeah, love it.
Great guest. On behalf of the Learning Network, I want to thank you for being a guest. On behalf of the Learning Network, I want to thank all our listeners, of course, C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio as our sponsors. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube. And it's Training Unleashed Network. And subscribe. And everyone have a fantastic day.